Thank you for tuning in and welcome back to the Sandwich of Coherency. Today I want to talk about a few things, and I want to talk about them from a perspective of just the people. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. And the way I want to say this is that this is not advice. I'm not questioning anybody's ideals or beliefs. All I'm doing is just saying what is. How you decide to take it, that's for you to decide. Do your own research. But I want to give a perspective of how things that have been happening, such as these mandates, and I want to make it easier for people to understand the perspective of what you call the common person views about it. And this is coming from the positions of those whom you labeled as essential workers. So let me start with this by playing a news clip from Illinois last year, and it's from the Illinois Department of Health. So just to give you an understanding of the mindset of what I'm explaining.
She says anyone who has COVID when they pass away will be included in that category. Dr. Ghazi explained this does not mean the virus caused that death, but if someone does test positive for COVID before dying, that is classified as a coronavirus fatality.
You were in hospice and had already been given, a few weeks to live, and then you also were found to have COVID, that would be counted as a COVID death. It means that technically, even if you died of a clear alternate cause, but you had COVID at the same time, it's still listed as a COVID death. So everyone who's listed as a COVID death doesn't mean that that was the cause of the death, but they had COVID at the time of death.
So understand that. That's how this whole thing, the idea that how it should be classified was given to them from the federal authorities. So what I'm talking about is look at it from the view of the essential workers. And now these are people that have worked through this entire time. Now a lot of people decided that it was too hard to go to work. It was too risky, too difficult. They didn't want to put themselves or their families at risk, so they opted to stay home and receive the enhanced unemployment. And, a lot of people were under the eviction moratorium. So you had a lot of people out there whom were considered essential workers. Now, you have most times you hear about just the medical workers, the doctors, the nurses, the staff of the hospitals, but nobody really talks about what about the average person, city workers, the people who were tasked with keeping your trash pickup. Those were considered essential workers. These are people that were needed to keep going. This is the same for your airline pilots as of late. They didn't shut down air travel. These people continue to go. And now you have to understand this is viewed as so deadly and dangerous. People did not want to put their lives at risk, and they're well within their rights to feel that that is the case. But you had millions of people who kept going, people who ended up getting sick and were out of work for a couple of weeks. Some were out for a month. Some had it worse than others. And for some, it was just something mild. And many of those people went back to work with no vaccinations. This hadn't started yet. Those people are now being told you have to get vaccinated to keep working. You have to look at it from their point of view. During the mass and the height of this entire thing, you still wanted your fast food. Your McDonald's still needed to be open. You still needed to order from Uber Eats. You didn't want to go out and get it because it was not safe for you. You're angry that Amazon made such high profits, but you didn't want to go out the house. You have to remember, lives were still going. People were still continuing to attempt to survive. So you have to look at an entire group of people that have kept going. You had construction had to keep going. In the middle of the heat wave, you were still able to call the HVAC people to come and fix your air conditioning units. You understand? Many people's lives never changed. Remember, it was too dangerous to leave the house, but it was safe enough for you to order food from strangers and have random people deliver it to you. Is there no irony in that? So let's have a look at the idea of, let's just have a look at Illinois. And I want to get you to understand these kind of numbers, what it is that I'm trying to convey here. So in Illinois, as of last year, it was around October, I believe, in October 2020. They reported there were 1,453 new confirmed cases of coronavirus. As of this year, October, let's see what today's date. Today is the 17th. They're reporting damn near 3,000. And, you know, we're looking at 2,422 to be exact, about 2,647 on their 7-day average. This is with Illinois having a overall 54% fully vaccinated population. Look at Israel. Remember, it was 2 shots to be completely vaccinated and have your green pass for travel. Now it's 3 shots. And mind you, the vaccinations began in December. We're not even into a complete year. And remember, despite all this, in 2020, all of the protests, all of the so-called Black Lives Matter, and all the riots, the attempted burnings of the federal buildings whilst there were people still inside, the autonomous zones that popped up all over the nation. These things that were viewed as non-super spreader events, whilst the people that wanted to go to work were being arrested. You have Nancy Pelosi supporting lockdowns and she's out getting her hair done. You've got the mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, explaining that she had to go out and get her hair done and get herself done up because she had to represent her city. Gavin Newsom basically says fuck his own rules as he attempts to lay down these draconian lockdown upon his people as he goes out and flaunts his freedom. No mask. You know, you had the rioters that were supposedly protesting anti-police measures, protesting mistreatment and whatnot, and Black Lives Matter, good ideas. But remember, they were given permission to do this. They were given express permission. De Blasio encouraged it. Pelosi encouraged it. AOC encouraged it. Newsom encouraged it. But if you wanted to go to work and you got caught opening your business, you were viewed as a health threat. Because you had places like California where strip clubs were viewed as essential and granted the authority to open before churches were. Because as they put it, they could regulate the businesses with fines. But there was no way for them to be able to check to regulate church services or people gathering in their home. So they're giving them permission to do this. You want to feed your family? No. You are the health risk. And I want people to understand that, like I said, do your own research and look into it and look at the numbers how you want. But I want to let you know that you're going to be okay. No matter how much fear they want to instill in you, and this idea that the human race is going to come to this immediate collapse, understand you are going to be okay. And let me give you an example. Not many people are familiar with the Hong Kong flu of 1968. From 68 to 1970, it was one of the worst pandemics in history. It's believed to have began in mainland China, but by the time it hit Hong Kong, in less than 2 weeks, 500,000 people were already infected. Now, this is also believed to have killed globally around 1 to 4 million people. Mind you, this is during that time, so you might have to change for the statistical numbers for today's modern population growth. But understand that during 1969, a little thing happened called Woodstock, which saw upwards of 400,000, almost 500,000 people attend this event in the middle of this pandemic. That was 69. And I'd like you to know that the human race is still here. We will survive this. Understand that humans will survive this. But the freedoms that you are giving up may not survive this. What you are willing to give up today, you are going to dreadfully wish for tomorrow. These ideas that they want to mind wash you with are not for your well-being. These are at the behest of those that consider themselves better than you. And so I want to help you understand this by I want to go back and explain a little bit more in detail of what I was explaining when I was mentioning Sweden and what Bernie Sanders is trying to explain to you. When I say that he is looking at the 60s era to the 90s, that was during a time when the government was working at the behest of the labor unions to bring the means of production into the hands of the people. And what they started were workers' wage funds. And what would happen was every year, a company would pay a portion of its profits into a fund that the government would then use to buy up shares of that company, to a point to where the government owns that company. But under that time, there was a lady named Astrid Lindgren, who was most notably and famously known for her books Pippi Longstocking. And even she espoused the fact that she was paying up to 102% in taxes. They reached a point to where it got so bad, they had to cut their public spending. They privatized their rail systems, which used to be public. They used to control the vodka industry. They had to privatize that. They realized that their taxes were stifling the industry and growth. So, by 1995-96, they had got rid of that model. That model was gone. They had to get rid of that because it was going to destroy the nation. You take the company IKEA, which was a Swedish company. They moved to Switzerland because the taxes of the nation were taxing them out of existence. And to fight against this, to show that they were not happy with this, in 1983, they took to the street in protest. Now, 75,000 Swedish people took to the street, which was the largest demonstration in Swedish history. And by comparison, that would have been about 4 million American citizens taking to the street at that time. So, understand that any idea that this will not have negative impact on citizens and civilians in days, well, not really days, but years to come, well, that idea is sadly mistaken. Understand, they want to put in place universal child care. It starts, and this is not to say this is a negative thing, but I'm just giving you an idea of the type of roadmap that you can expect if you're going to expect the government to continue to attempt to own the means of production. If you want the government of the people to be in control of the means of production and things as such, then this is a roadmap that you might have to expect to come one day. With universal childcare now opens up the freedom for anyone that is, say, on welfare, receiving unemployment, or has children at home and for some reason they can't work and such and are receiving government assistance. We now have universal childcare. So now you can either take classes, trade school, or you can go back into the workforce. If you want to do an idea of universal basic income, then, well, if the government owns the means of production and they own those things and they're able to use them for a capitalistic idea, which is what they will do, then anyone receiving government universal basic income can now go to work. In order for it to work, you will have to join that workforce. Everyone will be paid the same. You're all doing the same job depending on what the field is. So this idea, let's say if you're a carpenter and you have 15, 20 years experience, it won't matter, because the idea is you're having trouble finding work. So you can come work for the government and earn your universal basic income. So if you're looking to Sweden as your picture that you want to present to people as the ideal to go along, then you have to account for the fact that on average, the personal income tax for them can be as little as 29%, not the 27 or 22%, but 29%. But for the average citizen that's making around $43,000 a year, they pay between 49 and 60%. So this idea that they're trying to sell Americans that we're going to tax the rich more and we're going to tax you less to pay for these things is a lie. It's an absolute lie. You know, they're a country that having up to around like 70% capital allowance, which means that's the amount that they can claim as expenditures for the business against their taxable profit. So now they're allowed to invest more into their companies, into their workers. But the model that the American people are being presented with, it does the opposite. It wants to tax the companies out of existence, which will not benefit any of the workers. So that's just a little bit you have to take into account as they're trying to sell you on this whole idea of we're just going to give it all away to you. We're going to have more money for this and have more money for that. Right now, the government is, I want to correct myself from the other day, $28 trillion in debt. Doesn't matter what anybody tries to tell you, we're going to do this incentive and we're going to tax this group and we're going to shift this way. There isn't enough money. They're basically spending your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren's money. You can't be $28 trillion in debt, I apologize, and say we want to add another $1 trillion to the debt so that we can keep the government functioning. And on top of that, while saying it, you're saying that, hey, we also have a $5 trillion spending budget. We have a $3.5 trillion infrastructure budget. Where are you getting this money from? Who is paying this money back? This notion is going to end up with a major separation of society, and it's happening now. And let's get away from this idea of it's the unvaxxed versus the vaxxed. Let's remove that connotation and look at it as it's the people that have continued for the entire time to keep the entire society afloat versus those that didn't. No, it's not 100% that, but that's the reality of it. Those people that are saying that they're hesitant and don't want to take the vaccine, a lot of those people are not just people that are saying that because you want to call them an anti-vaxxer. The reality is that that's the guy who's been working for the past almost 2 years, continuing to do construction, continuing to work for the city, continuing to fly the planes, continuing to go to work in the farms. These are the people that have been going the entire time. So for them now, the people that didn't add to things, didn't work, or didn't go and be productive the entire time are now coming back and saying that I've got my vaccine, you need to get yours because you are a threat to me. And they're looking at it as like, hey, I don't know where you're coming from with this, but I never stopped. Many of them, as they will tell you, they already got it and they never stopped. So as far as they're concerned, the idea of getting vaccinated should be optional because they took their chances for damn near 2 years and they feel that they're comfortable and fine to keep taking their chances. And that is their right, especially when you look at it from their point of view, as in vaccinations started in December of 2020. We are less than a year in. Places like Israel are onto their third shot needed to being counted as vaccinated. You haven't made it a year. You developed a vaccine for the Alpha variant. You're on to the Delta variant, and you're still using that same vaccine. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not dropping any medical advice. I'm not telling you what to do or what not to do. But you can go on the CDC's website and you can read their reports. You can go to the National Institute of Health's website and you can read the reports of the majority of those that have died being classified as obese or overweight. Same thing on the National Institute of Health's website. A majority of those that have died have been classified as having little to no glutathione. They list the medical reports. They list the numbers, but they don't want you to look. Which is why they don't tell you. But it's there and you can read them yourself. The mainstream media is not going to tell you because they have the word of the White House and the federal government coming down to them, telling them what to tell you. It's the same thing with your social media. The White House has openly stated they are working with them in order to combat fake information. Remember, a lot of that same information that they said was fake a year ago is now what they're telling you is now the truth. It's not that it's now true a year later, it's just now they found a way to spin it for themselves. They're telling you it's only true when they say it's true. They're telling you that you shouldn't think about this for yourself. Just wait for them to give you the answer. So, this is just a call for everybody to do your own research and go out and look for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Don't listen to what the mainstream media tells you. Make your own decisions. Talk to your own doctors. But by God, think for yourself. I thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.